Lilith and Nama were very intentionally written with fire and ice attributes. The way Tabata writes his understanding of the Qliphoth and the Sephiroth goes severely unnoticed, so let me break it down for you. A lot of people were on me on Twitter for saying that the two devils that walked out of the Qliphoth were Lilith and Nama as opposed to the Thaumael. It was a silly notion to me at first, but studying the dynamics of the Qliphoth and some cross-lore aspects make me further appreciate what's happening. The Thaumael, as I'm sure most of us are aware of by now, are also referred to as the Twin Devils or the Contending Forces. In Black Clover, Lilith and Nama are clearly almost identical, and not only are they almost identical, they also have opposing attributes. The way the trees work, the Sephiroth and the Qliphoth, is that the highest reflect the lowest and the lowest reflect the highest. While both are dependent on the other, they are still independent and forces not to be reckoned with in their own right. A good representation of this that isn't spoken of too often is how Licht and Patri were portrayed in the Elf arc. Patri was able to make by as Licht even though his spot on the Sephiroth was the lowest. Using common sense, you would assume he would be the weakest one. The fact of the matter is, all the power from each Sephira is channeled to Malkuth on the path of lightning, or what is called the path of the sword, which is the path from Keter down to Malkuth. Power is also channeled to Keter on the path of the serpent, which is from Malkuth up to Keter. Everything between them are aspects of the one supreme god, or the Demiurge, and this is depicted as light. This is why we have two characters that were on completely opposite ends of the Sephiroth, with not only very similar physical appearances, but also very similar magic attributes. Even cooler is the fact that Licht at the throne of Keter had a sword attribute, which is exactly how power is passed from Keter to Malkuth, and Patri at the throne of Malkuth used his light in the form of a whip, possibly depicting the passing of power from Malkuth to Keter, as stated before, as the path of the serpent. Then Patri despairing and finding solace and forgiveness from Licht was highly symbolic of the journey of man, ascending the tree which is representative of the journey of Jesus. We see the human condition, but instead we can call it the elf condition because we see it through Patri's eyes. He was able to experience happiness, peace, and love, and through the massacre, he also experienced literal hell, the destruction of him and his world. He goes to whatever end needed to accomplish his revenge, committing acts of atrocities and manipulating others, sinning. At the very bottom of his fall, he meets the devil and it consumes him. Enter Dark Elf Patri. The sinner is now trapped at the bottom of the hellish pit that he dug. Asta plays the role as a savior very much in a Jesus-like fashion by bearing the burden of his sins so that Patri may be saved. Asta here using the demon annihilating sword also represents the path of the sword, also regarded as the path of the fool. This sets him up as having the position of Keter but descending the Sephiroth, taking the fool's path, and fittingly continues this descent via his devil onward to the draconian path. But back to the elf arc, Patri is able to be saved and still bears the mark of a sinner. This is the duality of man, wicked and pure and free to choose what actions they can take. He chooses to fight against the forces of evil and meets Licht. Licht tells him the honest truth that what Patri did was by no means okay, but expressed his understanding and showed forgiveness, even though Patri had fallen so far. This seems symbolic of the end of man's journey to God, the idea that at the end of your journey, God will forgive you if you yourself can recognize your wrongdoings and seek salvation. But this is also God accepting an aspect of himself, which is what the Sephiroth is, and thus both complete their journey. Going back to Lilith and Nama, they would both be reflections of the Thaumael, Satan and Moloch. Moloch in lore was a former god that civilizations sacrificed their children to through fire. He is attributed, thus, to fire. In Dante's Inferno, Dante finally meets Lucifer, who is trapped in ice. Tabata has Nama and Lilith sharing the first gate, which is perfect since Lilith technically rules the two Klippa within the lower tree, but also does well to represent the twin devils who share the same Klippa. Then we have the cross lore, where we have the fire and ice giants meet and begin to create. Lilith, of course, is regarded in many philosophies as the mother, but also the destroyer of children. In the Thaumael, Satan stands on side A, facing in toward the Klippa, which would be toward Malkuth, while Moloch stands on side B, facing the Sitra Ara, which lies chaos, darkness, and void, otherwise known as the three veils before Satan. This is the birthplace for creation. It is here on the draconian path where the mage chooses whether to go back to the singular god which Satan will send you. His perspective is that everything should return to chaos to be reincarnated. Or the mage can choose to become a god and rule their own universe, and in turn, starting a new Sephiroth in the void. Moloch wields the fires of creation, while Lucifer wields the power of chaos and destruction. I feel Tabata has written this almost perfectly. These concepts by no means are easy to write as a story, much less understand on a deeper level and illustrate for us on a shonen level. At the end of the day, I'm just here to show you guys that I feel Tabata has exhibited every reason for us to believe that he is a top-tier writer and should be respected for what he has done thus far in the series. And with that, I hope you guys found a little bit of knowledge and maybe a little bit more insight and information than you came into the video with. And hopefully you decide to stay in Black Clover, and if you do, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. I am looking to get to 3.5k subs on this channel by the end of November, so if you'd like to help me out, definitely watch a couple more of my videos, take a listen. If you like what you hear, definitely subscribe, help me out. If not, there are so many other great YouTubers out there that you can definitely support. I thank you guys. I will see you in the next video. You guys stay safe and stay out the way. This has been Jack Oates the GOAT. You either know or you don't.
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Pull up, say what's the deal, bruh? See how I lose my cool any second if they don't hear us. Many people will fear us. Say when you look in the mirror, don't you compare us to anything, they get embarrassed. Ha, ha, woo. So many people be talking like they want the problems or something. I noticed that all of you polish and all of you people get punished. It's hard to keep food on your stomach, to all of the hustle keep running. That's hard to stay humble with nothing. We're off of the jungle, we're bugging. So let me come down all of a sudden. I told you that we keep it buzzing. Ha, woo. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.